Let's talk about Raw this week. So,
Let's.
okay, we know that Triple H, he has NXT under his guidance. He has 205 Live under his guidance. Raw is still the bread and butter of the company, so Vince McMahon still oversees it. But do you not think that at least over the last few weeks, Triple H's fingerprints are all over Raw the last few weeks?
I think he pulled down his pants and put his ass prints all over it. Like, that is screaming Triple H.
It's screaming Triple H. I agree, and I'm digging it. And anybody that didn't see it, and I'm sure everybody did now, but they had the longest match in Raw history on Raw this week.
WWE history.
Okay, so I heard Raw history because back in the day they used to do like 2-hour matches back in the like 30s, 40s.
Well, in WWE history, and previously it was Waldo Von Erich and Bruno Sammartino, 81 minutes. They announced.
Oh, they did.
Now, yes. So
I didn't know
as
that.
far as a one-on-one match, no, this wasn't the longest, but the longest continuous match. Yes, Seth Rollins broke the record for longest Raw performance period.
Right.
At 65 minutes.
Right.
I thought this was great. Like if they had plans for them, they didn't work out, and they probably looked at the landscape and said, how do we reestablish this guy? Mm-hmm. And I thought they did a lot of things at once. They spent 2 hours of their TV that they needed to on a go-home.
Which is crazy. 2 hours in one match. It's crazy.
2 hours. They took a match that didn't mean a damn thing. And to be honest, once Rollins was eliminated, I had a hangover effect. But they solidified Seth Rollins as a main event player immediately. He beat Roman Reigns, John Cena back-to-back, and wrestled for 65 minutes.
Clean, too.
Clean. What more can you do for a guy?
Yeah, and no interference. And I've been putting over John Cena for weeks on the show lately because I respect the fact that he's embracing this role that he's in now. And what did he do? He went out there and he put Seth Rollins over clean as a sheet again. So good for him. I loved that they did the interviews with Renee Young backstage right after a guy was eliminated.
Those were so good.
I loved it. It was really good. And also, so the thing was officially 1 hour, 53 minutes, and 32 seconds. The crowd in Phoenix stayed hot throughout the whole match. And I realized this wasn't a one-on-one match. It almost had a Royal Rumble feel in that, after a pinfall, another guy came out kind of thing.
Everyone was pay-per-view quality or what the fans wanted. Like, Braun came in and crushed Miz.
Yes.
Did it a little bit more sustained, but this was kind of like, I don't want to say a pay-per-view because there were really no stakes. I'm hoping there are stakes, though. I'm hoping that Seth Rollins is exhausted at Elimination Chamber and maybe – because, his whole deal is he wants Monday Night Rollins now. And maybe he tried to make that happen at the expense of his title hopes, and that plays into something. Like, there have to be some sort of ramifications from this performance on Monday. But I thought it established that the last guy in the Elimination Chamber had the best chance because Braun showed up, beat up a guy as he was eliminated last, that even Roman Reigns can be eliminated because he got beaten straight up in a clean one-on-one pinfall scenario.
In the first match, yeah.
I loved it. And, I had a couple people, biting back saying, this isn't what casuals want. I don't know what casuals want. Like to say that any two people want something in some sort of blanket statement is weird. There's going to be people that had never watched wrestling before that would tune into this and love it. And then there would be people that never tuned into wrestling before that would hate it.
I mean, I've talked about this before, but I think that WWE's television audience in the U.S. now, at least 2/3 of them are not casuals anymore. At least 2/3 of them are the hardcore fan base. And the resurgence that we're seeing in pro wrestling over the last year, due in large part, I think, to internet fans, New Japan, Ring of Honor. The in-ring is what those fans like. That's what those promotions present to them, and WWE has to keep up. Now, the one thing I will say, because I heard a little bit of your post-Raw show, a little bit of your post-SmackDown show, and I know that there was a little bit of a debate about, well, I wish there had been stakes in the match. And you said, well, the emotions with Rollins and stuff. I will say that I agree that I wish there had been stakes in the match. And the one thing that I was thinking as this thing was passing an hour was, why did they waste that whole final man to enter the Elimination Chamber in the triple threat with Braun and Cena and Elias? They should have had it that the man to win the gauntlet match got to be the last entrant in the Elimination Chamber, because otherwise, I think it was Hawkins that said, why would the Miz not just lay down and let Braun pin him? Because you're going into a major match. And I think that's a very valid point. If they had made it that the man that won that gauntlet match gets to enter last, that's a reason for the guys to want to fight, especially the way that Rollins did, right?
Well, they take stakes out of everything. Like I've said before, in the UFC, you're fighting because you double your money. in WWE, they don't want their wrestlers to be concerned about money.
Right.
Like that's essentially, they want their people to be superstars and to be above that.
Right.
And I mean, that's why you're doing the job. That's why I strive in my job to do cool things and to do good, because I'm getting paid for it. If I'm not, maybe I'm not as motivated. Some people have other motivations, but money ultimately is the great motivator.
I mean, again, Brock, going back, we've talked about this. Brock Lesnar, when he first came back, said, I'm a prize fighter. Kevin Owens, when he first was on the main roster, would want to wait for the pay-per-view because he was a prize fighter. That's why they're doing this. They're not doing it for a social life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure some guys are doing it because they like the perks of being on TV and they like the fame. And Daniel Bryan, again, in that, I think it was in the Punk documentary, talked about how some guys, even on low guarantees, when they need an extra match for main event, those guys are hiding out and catering because they're so content with where they're at that they don't really care to do any extra. So I guess with some guys, it's not about money. But if you're not getting paid, you're not doing the job, Sean.